Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live. It is a special Sunday. This is Memorial Day weekend in the United States. Joe Samuel here, and join me from the podiumfinish.net, Kobe Lambeth. Kobe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you doing?
So far, so good. It's a bit of a surreal feeling this morning. I know you mentioned last week is usually one of the greatest days of racing, but it's a single race event today. So, I mean, it's something where, traditionally, as folks are aware, we normally would have the Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, that's not going to be taking place at all this year. Instead, it's going to take place next year at a different weekend, the weekend before Memorial Day. And then, of course, the Indianapolis 500 has moved to the weekend in late August as well. So we only got the Coca-Cola 600. I know for you, how has it been different today, knowing that we only got this one race today so far?
Yeah, Joe, it's been a real surreal day because typically I set my alarm to wake up really early on this particular day. Memorial Day weekend. Today is typically the greatest day in motorsports. You have breakfast during the Monaco Grand Prix, lunch during the Indianapolis 500, and dinner with the Coca-Cola 600. And this year we're only getting served dinner, and it's quite unfortunate given the current situation around the world that we weren't able to experience the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indianapolis 500 this year normally. But hopefully, when 2021 rolls around, we'll be able to sit back and enjoy both races once again, and never take what we had before for granted ever again.
Indeed, it is something where, while a lot of race fans, including us, are pretty bummed about it, it is something where we do take these things for granted. I know a lot of times it seems as tradition. You can't break tradition. Well, in the circumstance, not only are we not seeing races this weekend, but of course, for other people, they didn't get to experience high school graduation, no college graduation. So there's a lot of people affected globally. I think it's really something of waking up as to what we take for granted day by day. Now, of course, one of the big things, of course, we still have the Coca-Cola 600. That's going to be very exciting. Let's take a quick moment to recap how we got here. Of course, last week we were at Darlington Raceway for 2 races. It was a typical Darlington race. Both events saw at least 10 cautions, with 10 cautions on Sunday, 11 on Wednesday evening. The Wednesday evening race was rain shortened by 20 laps. And then, of course, everyone's talking about the last lap of racing, the Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott incident. Now, when we come to this weekend, a lot of factors coming in. I guess the first question to you, we know Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch have met. Chase said he had forgiven him. Do you think Kyle should be nervous about running near Chase, especially towards the end of a race?
Yeah. I mean, now that both of them have history together, while I don't expect Chase Elliott to be actively seeking to wreck Kyle Busch, I don't expect Chase to cut him any slack whatsoever if they're around each other for the foreseeable future. Because I don't think, given the speeds at the mile-and-a-half tracks, I don't think Chase would intentionally try to wreck Kyle Busch. But if they're battling for position late in the race, I don't expect him to give him an inch at all on the track. Or if in the case Kyle Busch is lapping Chase Elliott during a bad race or whatever, I don't expect Chase Elliott to just let him go. I expect Chase Elliott to race him really hard and make his life more difficult than it has to be. But I don't expect to see any type of retaliation tonight whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going to be different because short tracks, of course, we're used to seeing tempers flaring, especially Bristol, Martinsville. Of course, one of the most infamous moments from Martinsville, Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano. That's something you won't see at a mile-and-a-half, or especially a super speedway. Now, of course, the 2 winners from Darlington were Kevin Harvick on Sunday and Denny Hamlin. Out of the 2 drivers that won, who do you feel has the most momentum coming into tonight's race?
I think definitely Denny Hamlin. He won the last race out in Darlington, and before we went on the shutdown, Denny Hamlin was fired on all cylinders, and it seems like the number 11 FedEx team, Joe Gibbs Racing, has definitely kept the momentum rolling, and as the teams begin to rediscover the chemistry that they had before.
Yeah, it seems like that team has gotten going. They got the chemistry. They have the momentum, especially second win. And one of the things we asked on our poll, so traditionally NASCAR had the Winston Million, of course, win Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600, the Winston 500 in Talladega, and the Southern 500. That's no longer around, but still this season we've seen Denny Hamlin won at Daytona and won at Darlington. We asked on Twitter if people think he would win at Charlotte. 53% said no. What are your thoughts on his chances of winning today?
I think Denny Hamlin is definitely going to be competitive tonight, but I also agree with the fans. I don't think he's going to win tonight. I think the momentum is actually going to be on Chase Elliott's side because he's fired up after what happened the last time around. And I know we're going to get to the pick a winner later. And right now, I'm saying my pick earlier, I think Chase Elliott is going to be victorious tonight. He's going to be fired up for an incident that happened with Kyle Busch, and he's going to be ready to use all that fire and turn it into positive momentum for his entire team.
Positive momentum, and that would be a really big headline, especially if it came down between Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch. I could already see the headlines. I know a lot of people were talking about it after what happened on Wednesday, which sort of brings us to the next thought was midweek races. We saw how Darlington played out, and we've been seeing online folks praising the midweek race on Wednesday. Some people are wondering, is this going to be something we'll see more in the future? Do you see this being more in the future, and particularly different kind of tracks, such as the tracks like Darlington or within closer location, or some of the more remotely located racetracks?
Actually, I really believe that midweek racing is definitely going to be a huge part of NASCAR's future. However, I think it's something that would really work well during the summertime on say a Wednesday night or whatever, because the kids are going to be out of school and with nothing else like really going on during the week. I think it'll be a great opportunity for the families to get out to the racetrack, especially at the short tracks, like say at Martinsville, or maybe move the spring Bristol race to like early summer or whatever on a Wednesday night. That would be 2 Bristol night races, so never mind there. But yeah, having the Martinsville night race maybe like towards the early of the summer in the midweek, I think that would be really good. And I noticed that for the Toyota 500 Darlington last Wednesday night, we saw over 2 million viewers on FS1, which is really great. I saw on Twitter that some people were like really upset over the fact that we got 2 million viewers, because I don't know what the expectation was, but some people seem to want more. While for me, I think 2 million is a great number for FS1. I'm sure it would have been a little bit higher if it was on Big Fox, and I definitely like to get more data there, where you had the midweek races on FS1 versus on Big Fox network television, in order to compare the ratings and see where we go from there. But overall, I think midweek racing definitely has a future in the sport.
I would definitely agree with you. I do see midweek racing having a future in the sport. One of the racetracks I think could be a big benefit from midweek racing is Auto Club Speedway. It's not far from the Los Angeles area. It's in a very metropolitan area compared to some of the more remote tracks like Darlington, or even, I believe, Talladega, which is a bit of a drive from some of the major cities. So one of the things I do see that track being a potential for a midweek summertime, and especially California does get hotter. So in the evening when it's cooler, that'll be really nice. And I think that is something, especially if we see a little bit of a shorter distance, which we'll get to. Definitely for all of our viewers watching out there, be sure to give us a shout out on our comments. We want to give a shout out to Judson Racing Network. They say hello, thank you for watching us, and definitely be sure to let us know who your picks are for the pick a winner. Who do you think is going to win the Coca-Cola 600? So when it comes to the distance, did you feel Wednesday's night race was a good distance, or should NASCAR even look at shorter races? Because we had 500K on Wednesday.
Actually, I think 500 kilometers is a good distance for the shorter races, because it didn't take away too much of your night. I mean, we had like the delays and stuff, with the rain and stuff. But I feel like with having a race with 500 kilometers long, it doesn't take too much of your night away. It's like a sprint race. I remember I made a joke on Twitter that a lot of Formula 2 fans would understand. Where I said on Sunday, Kevin Harvick won the feature race, the longer race, 400 miles, and then Denny Hamlin won the sprint race, which was 500 kilometers, shorter than the 400-mile event we saw on Sunday. And I feel like that's definitely a direction that NASCAR needs to go in if they want to have successful midweek races. You have your feature race on Sunday, and then you have your sprint race on Wednesday night.
Yeah, this week, of course, Wednesday, we're going to be in Charlotte. It's going to be a 500K race. That's going to be really exciting as well. Of course, there won't be any qualifying or practice. They did have practice. They did have qualifying for this year's Coca-Cola 600, which Kurt Busch got the pole. Jimmie Johnson, Chase Elliott, Matt Kenseth, and Tyler Reddick ran out your top 5. I know when you looked at the starting lineup for today, did you see any surprises?
Oh yes, definitely. Rookie Tyler Reddick qualified 5th, and the Coca-Cola 600. Since it's a race, that's the longest in NASCAR. 600 miles, running an extra 100 miles from when you're used to, let's say, running 500-mile races. Is definitely a little bit more, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rookies do during this long race. It might be one of the longest races that they've ever run in their young careers.
Yeah, it is definitely a long race, and one of the things you bring up about the rookies, of course, Tyler Reddick, no wins. The Coca-Cola 600 has an interesting history of first-time winners. Of course, Jeff Gordon, Bobby Labonte, Austin Dillon, just to name a few. Do you think we'll see potentially a first-time winner, especially since we have limited practice, only qualifying, and now we're going to get ready to run 600 miles?
I mean, anything is possible nowadays. So far, it's been quite an unpredictable season in NASCAR. We've seen a lot of comers and goers, and there haven't been a lot of dull moments so far in the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series season. And if I had to pick a rookie to win, and I think it's Tyler Reddick. I think Tyler Reddick is a generational talent, and Richard Childress Racing definitely got them a star driver, a future star driver to build around as they continue to improve their Cup Series program.
Yeah, Tyler looks really good, especially for RCR. He seems like somebody that could really build around him. I know one of the things as well, too, one of the big drivers everyone's probably going to be looking at as well, too, because this will be his last Coca-Cola 600, Jimmie Johnson, who leads active drivers with the best average finish. Of course, we all know Jimmie Johnson. He rebounded from Sunday where he was one lap away from winning the first stage. Then he had that mishap where he wrecked out. Came back Wednesday looking better. Where do you see Jimmie's performance coming into tonight's race?
Oh, after posting that fast qualifying time earlier today, the 48 car looks dialed in tonight. And honestly, I think the key to Jimmie Johnson having a good race tonight is to hit all your marks, and as an entire team, don't mess up on pit road, have a mistake-free race, and don't make those little mistakes like you made at the end of stage one week ago at Darlington, because I know Jimmie Johnson is fired up, and I think he certainly has the potential to get back to victory lane a few times before he calls it a career in the NASCAR Cup Series as a full-time driver.
Yeah, Jimmie Johnson, definitely, he has the experience. He is a veteran driver, especially such a long distance. It does suit him, in my opinion, a little bit more just because he does have the experience of so many Coca-Cola 600s. It's going to be a long endurance race. Of course, all these drivers are top-notch athletes compared to back in the day where not a whole lot of drivers were known for doing marathon races and so on. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Jimmie Johnson will do today. But another man that has been really strong at the Coca-Cola 600 lately, and it's probably somebody to watch, Martin Truex Jr. Do you think today he will shine with another strong performance or possibly his first win for 2020?
Oh, absolutely. I remember last time out at Darlington. I believe it was last Sunday's race. Martin Truex Jr. He almost got lapped at the end of stage one, and everybody was like, "What's going on with the 19?" And then they had a miraculous recovery, and they were very competitive once again. And I think Martin Truex Jr. is definitely going to be one driver to keep an eye on tonight. I remember his performance in the Coca-Cola 600. A few years ago when he was still driving with Furniture Road furniture road racing, and he absolutely dominated the field. He led I believe over 90% of that race, and it was one of the most dominating performances I've seen by one car during my time watching NASCAR.
Yeah, with the 400 laps, he led 392, super dominant. I know it's the fastest Coca-Cola 600 in the history, and that was including with stage cautions as well. Now, one of the things that's going to be really interesting with today's race, of course, we're not going to have the huge pre-race ceremonies that we traditionally see for the Coca-Cola 600. I know Bridget Smith usually goes all out. We're going to have empty stands again. And then, of course, about halfway, NASCAR's going to throw the yellow flag for that moment in silence to remember all the veterans. How is that? I know last year when they did it the first year, when they had all the silence and you saw all the fans, that was really impressive. How do you feel this year? Empty stands, it's just the drivers. The significance of that, do you feel it's going to take even more meaning considering the circumstances we have this year?
Oh, absolutely. Although it's definitely going to be a strange situation, running behind closed doors again without having the fans there. And NASCAR takes great pride in honoring the men and women that have made the ultimate sacrifices for our country. And although fans won't be in the stands to see that, I'm sure everybody is definitely going to pay their respects from their living room or wherever they are watching the race.
Yes, I know for me, it's been something where, while it's a bummer not to have all the races like we traditionally do, just being able to have one race is something I'm really excited about. And then, of course, thankfully, we're going to still have more racing planned in the future. So definitely along with, that special moment of silence during the race, be reflecting on all the veterans, of course, out there, all the people that have given their lives for the country. And then, of course, everyone find this current situation, including the medical field as well. So one of the things I know last year, or it was 2 years ago, Denny Hamlin brought up about the distance of the Coca-Cola 600 being too long and maybe something shorter. I know we talked a little bit about shorter races, especially for a midweek race. Some of the topics that were coming up this week as well was, should we see shorter races all around? In your thoughts, do you think NASCAR should be looking at shortening events, or do you think there should be like a combination of some events staying their full length and some cutting it short? And where do you put the Coca-Cola 600 on that?
Well, I'm gonna play both sides of this equation and say yes and no. I think the crown jewel races need to stay the same. Like the Daytona 500 should remain a 500-mile event. The Coca-Cola 600 should remain 500 miles. I also feel the same way about Talladega as well, the Talladega races as well. And then I also believe that the Bristol night race and the Martinsville night race should remain at 500 laps. But other than that, in my opinion, there's no reason to have a 500-mile race on a mile-and-a-half track. I'd like to see any 500-mile race on a mile-and-a-half track drop down to 400 miles. I think that would be more doable, or even 500 kilometers would be nice as well.
Yeah, a 500-mile race at a mile and a half. I believe Texas has two of them traditionally. So that's something where a lot of people I know wonder about cutting the races short. We've already seen a couple of tracks like Dover, Poconos, got their races short as well, too, from 500 to 400. Definitely, I would agree with you on some of the crown jewel events, especially Coca-Cola 600, the Talladega 500, Daytona, and Southern 500 in Darlington should keep the same. But some of the other races, especially midweek races, as we start going to that, could look at shortening their season. Shortening their race distance. So one of the things, of course, we'll be having a post-race show after this, in which we'll be going over the updated grid rankings. Right now in the grid rankings, the highest NASCAR driver is Kevin Harvick. He gained a little bit of ground considering he won last week and got a top 5 finish at Darlington as well. So there's a grid ranking. Of course, only 20 drivers are being scored at the moment. Formula One, IndyCar, MotoGP have yet to run events, so there's no events for them to be scored on. When it comes to tonight, of course, we're now going to enter our pick a winner. You had mentioned already you're looking at Chase Elliott. He has a positive momentum. I'm going to go with maybe a dark horse favorite, but I think he got some really good shot. I'm going to go with the driver to 42, Matt Kenseth as my pick. Matt Kenseth has experience. His first career win came at the Coca-Cola 600 in 2000. He got a really good qualifying run today, so he's starting up towards the front. 74% of the time, the winner has started in the top 10. I think with his experience, the team seems to be running really good. If he could just stay out of trouble, I do think he's going to have a really good race and a good finish. Now, of course, we do got a good amount of rookies as well, too. Being a rookie, and especially entering this race, how do you feel is going to be more beneficial for them to do? Learn from their teammates, their crew chiefs, especially they have notes, or just getting out there and just trying to, okay, take it easy. We don't have a short race. We got a long 600-mile event.
I'm a firm believer in saying that you're not going to learn until you do it myself. I remember when I was in elementary school, I used to struggle a lot with math, and my mom would go online to try to help me figure out how to do it, and then once she found out how to do it, I just like copied it down. And when I got to class, nobody else knew how to do it, and the teacher thought I knew how to do it. And then the teacher asked me, they said, "I want you to show your classmates what to do," and I had no idea what I was doing. And from that point on, I said, if you truly want to learn how to do something, you have to do it yourself. And I feel like that with these rookie drivers tonight, that the best way to learn is to just get out there and drive and try not to make a lot of mistakes and try to complete all 600 miles tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be something where they have to just go out there and do it. I know they have a lot of experience, especially shorter distance races, especially they've done the Xfinity Series. They've done more races at Charlotte, but a long 600-mile event, even with the additional stage, since it's a 4-stage race, it is still a big test on them. One of the things, and this might be a big test today, is on the equipment. Traditionally, the teams will have a full weekend of practice, setting up, qualifying, happy hour, all sorts of practice. With today's format of just a single day, do you think reliability will become a bigger issue for any of the teams?
Actually, I don't think reliability is going to be an issue at all. It's been a long time since we've seen a lot of issues with reliability, and I think these cars can definitely go 600 miles without having the proper time to prepare that they've had in the past. And I truly believe that everybody's going to be fine tonight for the most part. There might be a few mechanical failures here and there, but overall, I think you're going to see most of the cars running at the end, unless there's multiple crashes or a big wreck.
Yeah, it does seem, especially where now NASCAR, the teams, their equipment are so top notch, where we don't have a whole lot of mechanical failures like we used to see back in the day. It's usually a really big surprise. In fact, I know when Brian Priest on Wednesday had his engine blow, that was a bit of a surprise too, especially since it not too often. Now, of course, the last time a rookie did win, well, actually, we had a first-time winner, correction, at the Coca-Cola 600 was 2017, Austin Dillon. Now, Austin Dillon, of course, is going to be running today. Since he's one of the former winners and a member of the Coca-Cola racing family, how do you see Austin Dillon performing today?
Well, based on his speed, him and Tyler Reddick, I believe, qualified fifth and sixth for tonight's Coca-Cola 600, and I think RCR is definitely going to have a strong night. I think both cars will at least finish in the top 20, and I think Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon are going to have a solid night at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, it does look like this might be a really strong point for Richard Childress Racing. Both of them on the top 10 essentially for qualifying. Both of them are looking really good. Austin has the experience of winning. Big thing, of course, is if he could keep the equipment together, stay out of trouble. We usually, every once in a while, in the Coca-Cola 600 do see a pretty significant wreck. Some of the ones I could think of are including, I believe it was 1994 or 1995, where entering turn 3, Mark Martin had an issue, had contact with Dale Earnhardt, and then we had a big bit of a mess there. Now, for those folks that are wondering who are some of the best drivers with average finishes, of course, Jimmie Johnson leads that. Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Daniel Suarez, surprisingly, out of all active drivers, is up there for best average finish. Do you think, especially considering his rough start this season, I know he had did not qualify. Do you think this could be a high point for him? And they're probably going to be focused more on trying to perform well, Daniel Suarez and his team?
Well, as you just mentioned, Daniel Suarez is currently high on the list for best average finish and at Charlotte. Unfortunately, I think he's definitely going to fall down that list tonight because the Gaunt brothers racing that they're in the process of trying to build their program, and so far they aren't where they want to be at the moment. But it seems like they're really struggling for feed. Suarez is going to be starting well outside of the top 30 tonight, and it definitely takes the time to build a program. And if they're going to build the program that they intend to build, it's like Rome. Fast programs aren't built overnight. It's just going to take time and patience. And if Daniel Suarez and Gaunt brothers racing with the support from TRD, if they want this partnership to be successful and become more competitive, it's something that's just going to have to take time and patience.
Yes, time and patience is definitely something where this team is in the building stages. I know it's something where it probably is for Daniel Suarez. I know he will probably finish pretty low. Hopefully, they could get some good finishes if there's some couple crashes or something that occur where they can